Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler review for Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3. Vader is back, baby! Oh yeah! And it kinda sucks. Now to be clear, I didn't hate this episode. I thought Leia was really good, I thought Obi-Wan was really good. There's some really great stuff, the mother discussion, and most of their dialogue was much better than last episode. But before I start talking about anything I liked, let's get to Vader, because I have some issues. Simply having the man himself, Vader himself, back there in costume, it's not enough. It felt like the producers asked themselves the question, should we hire a cinematographer that can frame this epic, grand moment in cinematic history? No, it doesn't matter. Just hire, just get the intern. Get Gary the intern to film this. It's Obi-Wan and Vader. They'll all just lap it up. They'll all just slurp it up. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to gobble up this Vader. If Vader's on screen, I don't care what happens. It just felt like they had that attitude for the director, the cinematographer, the fight choreographer, even just the lighting guys. Like, I don't know, everything just feels so flat, cheesy, like this old school 90s sci-fi hacky show. Like, it just doesn't have the feeling and vibe and the epic grand scale that I would imagine Vader and Obi-Wan's next fight would feel and look like. Like, yes, parts of it look grand and epic, but that's mostly due to being like, Obi-Wan's got a blue lightsaber and he's all lit all blue and it's illuminating him and stuff, and Vader, it's all red and menacing, and the lightsaber's illuminating him and stuff, and it's all dark. But that's just a lightsaber fight. I could say that of Rise of Skywalker. Like, it's just like, they did that back in the 70s with Empire Strikes Back. Like, being, lit by the lightsaber, kind of good. That's not good enough. Like, I liked that it was kind of a bit exaggerated and over the top in this. Like, they felt very bright and vibrant, and I did like that. But apart from that one aspect, it's all terrible. Like, the fighting was just kind of like, in theory, I do like the idea that, in episode 3, they're all doing flips and they're pretty much flipping all the time, and they're just like, and it's all really, really fast and frenetic and energetic. And then in this episode 3, in between episode 3 and episode 4, is that why they're fighting again in episode 3? So it's like, then we can always be like, which episode 3 did you like better? In episode 3, they're flipping all day long, it's very energetic, and then in episode 4, it's more slow and methodical, very samurai style, like a few kind of boom, 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 and then it's over. And in theory, I love the idea of okay, in this one, their middle fight between those two fights, it's kind of a combination of both, because, no one's doing big flips or anything, but it's not that slow, kind of like that old school, New Hope style. But I don't think that was their intention, to kind of make it feel like this weird muddy middle ground. It wasn't kind of very intentional, like, oh, look how cleverly crafted it is in between these two things. It kind of just felt like very stale and stagnant and boring and dull and unimaginative and just swing, ding, ding, and at points they're like, but it was kind of like, it didn't have that feeling. And I think it's just, the choice of where the camera is, the choice of how you're framing, the choice of the music. Where's the music? Star Wars music should be the most iconic, amazing thing. It should be the best part of the thing you're watching. Even in Rise of Skywalker, there was some fantastic music. And in this giant piece of content that we're watching, the music is just not good enough, and the fighting's not good enough. I will happily watch a piece of shit if there's good action and schlocky, dumb action, and they're all it's like, oh, what was the story? It was nothing. Should they even have made this story about Obi-Wan? But what about that lightsaber fight? Wasn't that? And I'll just rewatch that lightsaber fight 50 times. I'm that guy. I will embrace something if at least the action and the music and the spectacle is good enough. Yay, I would love the story to be good, and that's kind of what I'm here for first and primarily. But if all of that's going to be terrible and whatever, at least I'll watch that fight scene again. I can't see myself coming back to this fight scene because it doesn't feel like a clever combination of anything. It doesn't feel like a combination of these two characters. Oh, it's been so long. It's been so long for us, but for the characters, not enough has happened with these characters in this show, at least, even, that makes me go, oh, this is such a grand, epic final battle again. And I know they'll probably fight again, but it just felt so action figures, smash, smash, smash. You like Obi-Wan and Vader? Slurp this up, you stupid nerd. Well, I won't slurp it up. I'll watch it, but I won't enjoy this disgusting porridge of show. What am I doing with that metaphor right there? I blame the show's quality for bringing down my review's quality of humor. It's generous for me to call anything I ever say on this channel as humor. It's mostly just yelling into the void, and sometimes someone says they laugh, but I don't know if they're being sarcastic and trying to hurt my feelings or not. From the first two to this, the direction still feels really flat. It just feels like there's no vision or idea of what they want to kind of do with this show. Feels oddly directionless in just like, the director, and their kind of vision, but also just in the show. Like, what's the story? This episode is just, they get to a planet, they find a person, they go to run through a tunnel, and then Vader shows up! Look, it's Vader! You love Vader, don't you? And I'm like, I do love Vader. I feel like the best this show at this point can do for me is make me go, this is a really good fan-made film. And this is a really good kind of fan-made, project. Like, the way they interact in this episode, the way Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, we finally got the showdown we've been waiting for. And, of course, it's not the showdown, because we're in episode 3. It's kind of that first showdown, that time when Batman and Superman rock up against each other and just punches Batman in the face, and he's like, you're not ready. And Batman's like, I'll be back with a big armored suit, from that comic book. And the same thing will happen here. Obi-Wan will come back and he's like, I actually wasn't, in tune with the Force. It's been 10 years, but now I've got all my Force mojo back, baby, and they'll have an actual lightsaber fight. So I understand what they're doing with this scene, but the fight itself, kind of like a little bit underwhelming, kind of a bit frustrating. Like, when he first turns his lightsaber on, I shrieked, I screamed, and then Obi-Wan's like, I better run away, and it's like, get back here, Obi-Wan, you coward, what are you doing? There were aspects of it I really enjoyed. I mean, the dialogue was very kind of bad and like almost cringy a little bit, but it's generic and, I don't know, Star Wars' dialogue has always kind of been the weak point. I was thinking about that over the week, and I'm like, it's no wonder my favorite Star Wars characters are a man where you can't actually see him acting when he speaks, and a little baby that doesn't speak. And, no wonder they're my favorite two characters, because Star Wars, even at its best, always kind of has an issue with dialogue. And so the big action scene is like, what have you become? What you've made me! It's fine. It's nothing, but, it could be worse, I suppose. But the thing that always really annoys me in a big epic showdown, a big fight, when they've got to have a punch on and then later have another punch on, is why does the first fight stop? Why does it actually not, why don't they kill each other right then and there? And I had this huge issue with Godzilla vs. Kong, but who cares, you say? It's a big lizard punching a big gorilla. Who cares if the reason they stopped fighting the first time makes absolutely no sense and is completely ridiculous and contrived and they just say words and then it just happens? Well, this has the same thing, and I kind of feel like I should hold this more to account because, yes, that is just a stupid movie about a big gorilla punching a big lizard in the face, and the lizard shoots fire or atomic breath. Shut up, I know. So we get an amazing, or anticlimactic, depending on, how you feel about the fight in general. But the bit that I do love is they're having a big fight, and then, Vader's got him up in the air, and he's all like, ooh, choky thingy, and he puts all the fire, there's stuff he hits on the ground, it all lights up, and he's like, you put me in fire, and I was like, I didn't like that. Look at me now, I'm a monster. And he starts putting him on the fire, and he's just rolling him about in the fire, and I thought that was utterly delightful, very sadistic and evil of Vader. I really kind of dig this. He's like, yeah, you've made me roll around in fire. I'm like, you roll around in fire. And I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be amazing. He's going to keep him and torture him. They're going to have to rescue him or something. But no, he just pushes him back and kind of stops before, any part of his face can be scarred. Because obviously we saw Obi-Wan later, no scars on his face. So can't actually do that and go that far. Classic kind of prequel issue. And then Lady appears out of the tunnel, even though I'm not sure how she got out of the tunnel without Reva finding her. Another question, a big, I guess who cares, it was off screen, so shut up, don't worry about it. And she comes, she's like, bang, 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 shooty shoot, fire goes up again. And then the big robot, the silent robot who can't hear or talk or whatever, but he maybe can think because he had that hammer or whatever, the big silent droid. I like that as well. So many of the droids are so snappy and quippy and they're all like, look at me, I'm a robot, ba, ba, ba. This one was just silent and deadly. I really liked him, he was great. But he grabs Obi-Wan and he starts, walking away. And Vader just washes through the fire and he's like, Obi-Wan, till next time, Obi-Wan. What are you doing, Vader? What is happening? And I knew. I didn't even have to wait for the scene to finish. I knew Vader was not going to go around the fire. The fire, which is it's a big fire, but it's not a big fire. It's maybe 5 meters, around maybe 25 meters, maximum. You've got 20 guys. Vader, just use the Force and get rid of the fire. Like when you had the fire on Obi-Wan and you got rid of all the fire with the Force and pushed him, maybe just grab the droid who's holding Obi-Wan and bring him through the fire. This is Obi-Wan. You've been chasing him for the last 10 years and you have him right there. You're already torturing him. You seem to be getting a lot out of that torture, kind of thing, which makes sense because, you've been... I don't understand what is happening. Vader, just go around the fire, bring him through the fire, chase after him. This is like watching an episode of The Flash, and Flash is like, I can run 1,000,000,000,000 miles an hour, I can stop time, I'm so fast, and then a villain punches him in the face, and because they've got a fight later in the episode, he runs away, and he's like, I couldn't catch him. What do you mean you couldn't catch him? He left like 25 seconds ago. That's like less than a second for you. Just chase him. You got to check like 6 streets, Flash. Just chase him. Well, now Vader goes into that category of just the fight could have continued, but because they said so and he just didn't, it doesn't. Fantastic. I can understand how this would totally work for people because it's a much better episode than the last two. But I think that now we're here with the big moments and it's going to, we'll see more of Vader and Obi-Wan together. But it really just felt like someone just grabbed the two figures and they're just like, look, it's the action figures you love. And they just smash them together. And it's like, yeah, but just having them together with lightsabers hitting each other, that's not enough. That's like, it's not what I was here for. I want you to build a story and craft like a narrative that's satisfying and interesting. Not just have him run about and be like, I've got to get Leia out of this situation. Oh no, what's going to happen? Well, all 3 of you get out of this situation completely unscathed. So who cares? Maybe just construct it in a way where somehow I care. So people seem to have taken a real big issue with Reva, the Inquisitor. And, she's not great, but I've got to call out the other Inquisitor guy, the guy with the hat. I don't even want to know his name. I'm not bothering to Google it or find out. But the hat Inquisitor, I think his acting is way worse. I mean, they're all way too over the top and they're all like, ooh, I want to be the big grand Inquisitor and that's my story. I want to sit on the big seat. And he's like, actually, I want to sit on the big seat and I'm the big bad guy. If Vader doesn't just kill all of these guys at the end of this season, and I'm sure they can't die because they die in Rebels or whatever, but the Grand Inquisitor didn't seem to come back in this episode, which I feel like they probably should have done if he dies in Rebels. Who cares? Who cares what's canon or whatever? I just want to be able to watch this show and enjoy it for at least what it is. And these Inquisitors, whatever the hell, these terrible, shitty Siths, these shiths, they just infuriate me. Any scene with them all just talking, just awful, just really, really just bad, not menacing and scary, just really kind of like cringe and like high school theatery, where they're all like, but I actually spoke to Vader first, and she's like, well, guess who'll be standing next to his side when this is all done. I really don't like them. They're the weakest element of this series, and I feel like we're going to just have to deal with them. But my expectation for the Inquisitors is like 0. They're shit. They're shit Sith. They're shit. I don't like them. And Vader is like, he's one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic villain of all time. And it's just like, the first 2 episodes, I'm like, why even have the Inquisitors? Just bring Vader in, baby. And now Vader's here. It's like, this is what everyone kept telling me. This is why they don't use him, because they're afraid if they use him and people don't receive it well, we hate it even more. Yeah, well. Yeah. Back to some things that I like. Let's stop talking about Vader and how disappointed and underwhelming I found that to be. Let's bring it back to something that's good now. Leia. Leia is way better in this episode. I think the highlight for me was when they kind of had the interaction with all the stormtroopers and they get on board and, Obi-Wan's kind of very socially awkward. He's not fun and sociable anymore, with all his friends like Dexter, Jetster and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like it's really fun dynamic to have him be like, oh god, there's all these stormtroopers, oh god, there's this guy, don't talk to the guy, and Leia's just like really sociable and friendly, and she's just quipping and saying hello to everyone and doing all that, and there's a really nice dynamic there. I like the idea that he just slips up and he's like, oh god, I'm so out of practice, but then he starts doing some sweet improv and, kind of bringing that back around, and then Leia kind of senses that thing that, ooh, you knew my mother, are you my father? And I thought that was a really great scene. That was kind of the highlight of the episode for me. It was just kind of being like, okay, if we're going to be following these 2 characters for the whole show, and that's kind of what it's going to be, I'm more okay with it now than I was in the first 2, where it just felt like, I feel like they're going for this kind of, in Logan where it was like Wolverine and little Wolverine, or, the Mountain and Arya, or something like that, and it's just really not working, that kind of old grizzled mentor and the little girl who's quippy and snappy and, all that kind of stuff. Whereas now, their dynamic is starting to work for me a lot better. I really want to see some more Anakin. I want to see some Clone Wars flashbacks. I want to see him, Ahsoka, Ewan McGregor, all those actors acting together. Just like, I don't know, I really just think I almost prefer that than anything going on in this timeline, because, I don't know, what's the story going to be from here? Reva, she's got Leia, but she can't hurt Leia. Leia has to be totally safe. So he'll find Reva, kill Reva or whatever, Darth Vader can't find out that's his daughter, so there's no excitement or tension there. I don't know. I just feel like there's nothing in this story that makes me go, oh, what's going to happen next? It's just kind of like, oh, is anything going to be good next? I don't know. I'm still really mixed on this show, but this is so much better than last week. Mostly. I'd be super curious, what does everyone else think? Was everyone like, big yays, Vader all day, I love it, baby? Or did everyone else kind of find this surprisingly underwhelming and a bit kind of anticlimactic now that we finally had Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, the second showdown that we've all been waiting for 15 years? And then there's some fire, and Vader's like, I'll catch you next time, Obi-Wan. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I'd love to know what everyone thought of Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3.